everybody. We are today starting our new poetry unit. So we are moving on from Lord of the Flies. No more Lord of the Flies. If you are still working on the summative assignment, that's cool. You can get that done and turn it into me at any time. But from this point on, new assignments will all be on our new unit, which is poetry. So we are starting on poetry today, and every poetry assignment will have three parts. The first part is the video. There will be a video lesson where I will teach you something and show you some poems. Part 2 will be where you will read a few other poems on your own, and you will respond to me about one of those poems. So you'll write what you noticed about that poem. And then part 3, the final part, will be where you actually write your own poem. So for every one of these lessons, you'll be writing a poem that goes along with the poems that I assigned. Okay? 3 parts. Part 1, this video. Let's get right to it. All right, so first I'm going to teach you a couple of different terms that we're going to be using as we go over and read these poems together today. The first term is repetition. So I'm sure you know what repetition means, but when it comes to poetry, some of the things we look at that might be repeated are words, phrases. So a word could be the word empty. A poem might use the word empty over and over again. A phrase might be I am empty, right? So it might use that whole phrase, I am empty, I am empty, I am empty, over and over again throughout the poem. Letters, it might use alliteration and use a lot of different words that all start with the same letter, or might have the same sound. So it might have a lot of ooh sounds throughout the poem, or an ah sound. And so poets can do all sorts of different things with repeating words, phrases, letters, and sounds to make you think about different ideas as you read their poem. The next is rhythm. So when you have a repetition of sounds, it creates rhythm. You all know this, right? A rhythm is something that repeats in a way that catches your ear and you can kind of feel the beat of it. So when you have a repetition of sounds, it creates rhythm. We're going to look for rhythm in poetry as well. Next, let me turn my little page here. The next thing we're going to look at is structure. So structure is how a poem is built. I know you might be like, Miss Ledoux, you don't build a poem, you write a poem. But actually, poems are not just words on a page. Poems are the way that it sounds out loud, and poems actually can be visual as well. So poetry can have a visual part to it and how it looks. So when you're looking at structure, pay attention to punctuation. Where do they put the periods or question marks, or do they not use periods? Capitalization, how long each line is, and where do they put the spaces? Okay, all of that is structure. Okay, that said, let's go ahead and jump into our first poem. So our first poem we're going to read is Nicky Rosa by Nikki Giovanni. And we're going to read through the poem once and just read it and listen to it and see it. And then we're going to go back again and see what we noticed about the terms we just learned. So about repetition, about rhythm, and also about structure. So instead of me reading this poem, I'm actually going to play you the author of the poem reading it as I show it to you on the screen.
Childhood remembrances are always a drag if you're black. You always remember things like living in Woodlawn with no indoor toilet. And if you become famous or something, they never talk about how happy you were to have your mother all to yourself, and how good the water felt when you got your bath from one of those big tubs that folk in Chicago barbecue in. And somehow when you talk about home, it never gets across how much you understood their feelings, as the whole family attended meetings about Hollydale. And even though you remember, your biographers never understand your father's pain as he sells his stock and another dream goes. And though you're poor, it isn't poverty that concerns you. And though they fought a lot, it isn't your father's drinking that makes any difference, but only that everybody is together. And you and your sister have happy birthdays and very good Christmases. And I really hope no white person ever has cause to write about me, because they never understand black love is Blackwell. And they'll probably talk about my hard childhood and never understand that all the while I was quite happy.
All right, so we've read through the poem once and heard it, and I played the author reading it because I think it's important to hear how a poem was intended to be heard, and especially this poem is about being black and about having a black childhood, and it's written with a certain intent to it. And so if you can, I think it always helps you to understand a poem to hear the person who wrote it read it. And thanks to the internet, there's a lot of videos of poets reading their poems out there, which is probably more helpful than hearing me, your very white teacher, read this poem. So now we're going to do it again, but this time we're actually just going to go through it and see what we notice about this poem. All right? So the very first thing that I noticed about this poem is the capitalization. So the very first word in this poem is not capitalized, right? So she did that on purpose, obviously. That was not a mistake. So I'm just going to like write a little note. So no capital letters. That's what I noticed right away. Make sure that's showing up. Yep, good. Except what? Except black, right? And if I look through the poem, there are very few words that actually get capitalized, and one of them is black. And so I think that that's important, right? It stands out. So it stands out. It's important. Okay. So I go, child remembrances are always a drag if you're black. You always remember things like living in Woodlawn with no inside toilet. So I see there's another capital letter. Probably also important, right? The place that she grew up. With no inside toilet. And if you become famous or something, they never talk about how happy you were to have your mother all to yourself and how good the water felt when you got your bath. So I notice that we have some long lines, right? They never talk about how happy you were to have. And then we have short lines. So this author kind of varies between long lines and short lines. We've got short here, long here. And let's keep going. So how good the water felt when you got your bath from one of those big tubs that folk in Chicago barbecue in. And somehow when you talk about home, it never gets across how much you understood their feelings. So what are we seeing repeated in here so far? I see the word you a lot, right? You got your bath. And there are also, she's making a list of things, right? Of things that are good things that she remembers from her childhood. And at first it almost sounds like it's going to be a list of bad things, right? You always remember things like living in Woodlawn with no inside toilet. We're going to think like, oh, that sounds bad. But actually, as we go on, it's about things that made her happy, right? To have your mother all to yourself. And how good the water felt when you got your bath from one of those big tubs that folk in Chicago barbecue in. So saying, sure, I had one bathroom, right? But these are the good things about the people, the things that other people make sound bad. That you had to take a bath in this barbecue tub, or that you only had your mother at home, right? But she's saying, actually, those are good things. So far we have those lists of things. Being the mother is a good thing. How good the water felt in the bath is another positive thing. Let's keep going. And somehow when you talk about home, it never gets across how much you understood their feelings. So there's another positive thing that she's remembering about childhood. As the whole family attended meetings about Hollydale, even though you remember your biographers never understand your father's pain as he sells his stock and another dream goes. So this is not necessarily a positive thing, right? But it's about people not understanding, right? So there's this repetition of what other people don't understand about your life. Your father's pain, he sells his stock. And though you're poor, it isn't poverty that concerns you. And though they fight a lot, it isn't your father's drinking that makes any difference. but only that everybody is together and you and your sister have happy birthdays and very good Christmases. So again, she's putting these sort of negative things, right? Poverty, fighting, drinking. But here is the positives that she's highlighting. Everybody is together, and you and your sister have happy birthdays and very good Christmases. And I really hope no white person, and if you notice here, white does not get capitalized, right? Because that is not what's important in this poem, ever has cause to write about me. Because they never understand black love is black wealth. I would say that those are sort of the big positives of this poem, right? We're talking about love and how love is wealth. She's saying those experiences are what made me rich, right? Not money. And they'll probably talk about my hard childhood and never understand all the while I was quite happy. So we've got this repeating of a couple different things. A repeating of the negative ways that other people view her and her family, and also a repetition of all these positive things. I also noticed that she doesn't actually use the word I until the bottom, right? Up at the top, it's you. It's all about you, you, you. And at the bottom, suddenly it turns personal, right? It's about me and my experience as the author. So this is what I want you to do when you read a poem. You don't have to write all this stuff because obviously you're reading it on your computer screen, but I want you to go through and notice this stuff. So I can notice here that there's no capital letters even through here. So if you were paying attention, Christmases got capitalized, Hollydale, Chicago, names of places that were important in her life got capitalized, but that's it. If you also look at punctuation, I'm just going down here to see. Looks like there is one period, and I kind of drew over it, but there's one period and it's at the end, okay? That tells me that the way this poem is supposed to be read, and you could hear this in the way that she performed it, is kind of going on and on and on, right? Not actually supposed to stop at the end of every line. It's one long thought that ends at the end. All right, so that was kind of a longer poem, but you can see that it's a catalog of all of the good things of her childhood, all of her happy memories, right? So let's look at a shorter catalog poem. This one is called We Real Cool by Gwendolyn Brooks, and I'm just going to read this one because it's pretty short. The pool players, 7 at the Golden Shovel. We real cool. We left school. We lurk late, we strike straight, we sing gin, we thin gin, we jazz June, we die soon. So this one has got a lot of repetition in it, right? Obviously, we at the end of every line except that one. So this is where the repetition stops. Also, please don't judge my very bad nails. I can't get manicures right now while we're all stuck at home. So we've got repetition all the way up to the end, which is powerful, right? Because it's we, and then die soon. So it's like the group is all together. This group of friends is together, but soon they're not going to be, right? That's what I get from the we getting taken out at the end here. So we real cool, we left school. We've also got rhyming here, right? And the rhymes repeat in each pair. Cool school, late straight, sin, gin, June, soon. So we've got this rhyme scheme repeating down through the poem. And we put breaks in between to show us we're rhyming something new. I also think that this poem is powerful because the things that it's repeating, right, are again positive things that makes you think like, oh, like this group of friends is hanging out, they're playing pool, and you know, they're having fun with each other, and then suddenly at the end we die soon. That's powerful, right? Like, oh, these guys are just hanging out playing pool, you know, drinking, singing, hanging out, shooting at the pool table, and soon they're going to die. That's a powerful piece, sort of making you think about like what's going on in their life, like why are their lives like this sort of play hard, die early sort of feeling to this poem. So those are both catalog poems where they're making a list of different things for you, using different things like repetition, about rhythm. You can really feel the rhythm in this poem, right? We real cool, we left school, we lurk late, we strike straight, we sing sin, we thin gin, we jazz June, we die soon. You can feel that rhythm because the sounds are repeated over and over again. And you can also see the structure of it, and see how this person chose to use these really short lines and to add the we right at the end of every line instead of the beginning of the next line. So I've kind of gone over these two poems with you. You are going to read a couple more poems that I will assign on Google Classroom, and I would like you to pick one of them and just respond to me. What do you notice about the poem? What does it make you think about? What kind of devices do they use in that poem? And then I would like you to write your own catalog poem. So I will post instructions for that in Google Classroom. I miss you very much. Next week is spring break. So no assignments will be posted next week. It's your chance to catch up on current assignments. I will still be around if you need me, of course, so shoot me an email if there's anything that you need. Love you guys. Bye.